Hello there! Welcome to TBI Talk. Today is March 7th. And I was just thinking that when I was walking the dogs this morning, that it's already March 7th and I have to do new month stuff. Like I have to change my sheets because it's a new month. I've already changed my towels, so that's really good. But yes, I have to change my sheets because it's a new month. Gotta do those new month things to zhuzh up your house. But yes, my name is Lynn. Welcome to TBI Talk today. And let's get down to the proper introduction. I'm a severe traumatic brain injury survivor. I was actually comatose for a bit in 2020 after my injury on the 3rd of July, right at the beach here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was staying at a Westin for the 4th of July during the COVID pandemic to catch some fireworks for one of my favorite holidays. And although I caught fantastic TBI, I didn't see fireworks on the beach in Fort Lauderdale until last year when I went for the 4th of July weekend by myself. So yes, here we are, 5 years, a full 5 years of healing time after that traumatic brain injury in 2020, here doing TBI Talk with you and so many others. I had a really, really unique opportunity this week to go see a new movie. Before we get into the movie, I would like to acknowledge Fancy. So this little Chihuahua baby here, this is Fancy. And Fancy is our guest while Fancy's mom is on the special vacation. So I'm really grateful to be here hanging out with Fancy because we have Fancy because her mom uses Rover.com. And her mom chose me to take care of Fancy. And I'm really grateful. And now Fancy's going to bite me. So yes, I had a really cool opportunity this week. I went to go see The Bride, the movie. The Maggie Gyllenhaal movie that just premiered Friday. It premiered yesterday. So I don't want to share too much information about it because it was a fantastic film. And it really spoke to me because the bride, the character, wakes up in a completely different body as a completely different person with completely different connections and needs and requirements than she knew. And the gist of what was happening to the bride, I mean, obviously the bride is not real life, but even so, it really spoke to me while watching the bride try to make sense of what was happening and who she is and what her options are, because I feel that I've done the same thing multiple times as a traumatic brain injury survivor. I know that when I was at Neurorestorative in Georgia and I first got my awareness back, I didn't know what exactly had happened to me, so I needed somebody to explain it. And I'm going to give myself a lesson here because when somebody asks you a loaded, difficult question like that, what happened to me? And, you've been in the hospital since July and it's now September and you're asking what happened. I mean, that is a question that you're going to need to answer with delicacy and training and knowledge. And I hope that others who get answered that question get answered better than I did. Because the lady, the nurse that answered my question about what had happened to me, cried at me about what had happened to me. So, as a healing TBI survivor, knowing that I went through something that other people cry about is disturbing because I like to please people. So with this lady sharing the story of what had happened to me that caused her such pain, caused me alarm. And I still notice it. Here we are almost 6 years later, and I still remember her feedback telling me what had happened to me July 3rd, 2020. And I didn't like that at all. And it was quite different when they let the bride know what her story was. She asked differently and she found out differently, but she found out, I think, with more support and professionalism in a movie than I did in real life, because that's what movie people get to do. They get to write the story and have it come out the way that they think it should be. And I'm glad they did that. And I'm glad the bride had that opportunity. And one of the other things that's so special to me about the film is that it spoke to me as a TBI survivor. It spoke to me. It spoke to me about not knowing or understanding completely what is happening, but kind of going along with the program, because that's a part of our healing. Just go along with the program to some extent. And for what it's worth, that's still a lot of what my daily life is. I go along with the program of what I can and can't do, what I can and can't accomplish, and some days are better than others. And let me just remind you, I am not a trained mental health therapist. I'm not a trained counselor, or this is just my thoughts and my opinions, and I'm grateful that you're here soaking all this weirdness up. So another thing that I needed to focus on that I might not be able to do this year, just with my abilities, my earnings, which are limited. I can't work, so I collect Social Security, and I actually opted in for a benefit at my job when I was still able to work that allows me to collect disability earnings on top of my federal disability earnings. So it's not significant, but I'm able to make ends meet and stay alive, and that makes me grateful. My earnings allow me to do some amazing things. They allow me to eat. They allow me to pay my bills. They allow me to keep my lights on, my water running. They allow me to feed my dogs. They allow me to medicate my dogs properly with their medications that they need. They allow me to remain connected. They allow me to maintain my cell phone and my internet. And, my YouTube, my YouTube obviously, but my internet is huge, that I'm grateful that I still have access to my internet. One of the things that I was thinking I might not have access to this year with the goings on in my family and with my earnings is that I wouldn't be able to attend the Brain Injury Florida annual conference in Orlando. I heard about it sometime in 2023 or 2024 or something, and I shared it with my family, and I said, hey, does anybody want to go check this out, because this might be something nice for brain injury caregivers and a brain injury survivor. And my mom said, yeah, that sounds great, let's go check that out. So in 2024, and again last year, my mom and I drove up to Orlando for the brain injury conference. We got a really nice hotel, we checked out the area, and it was a really excellent experience. Last year was really special because one of the presenters last year was at the very beginning of me reaching that 5-year mark, so I don't really actually remember totally, but last year there was one speaker who was really special. And although it was the source of information wasn't exactly perfect based on my own personal preferences, the source of information in this discussion, in this presentation from this presenter, was that they were testing rodents who had survived traumatic brain injuries with a specific treatment, and were seeing how much better the rodents were performing. So it's amazing to me to know, thanks to Brain Injury Florida, that there's treatment that could be possible for people who have survived significant brain damage with their traumatic brain injuries. And I learned about that at the Brain Injury Florida conference last year. So I had to decide. Well, no, I didn't have to decide because the decision was made. I wouldn't be able to go because I didn't have the money for the transportation, for the hotel, for the ticket to the conference, for the meals, for the dog care that I would need. I wouldn't have the money for any of that. And I needed to come to terms with that. But I got to thinking, I share my story of my brain injury survival weekly, and I make kind of a big deal about it because it is a big deal. I was in a coma, and here I am now on a vlog with you. But I was really struggling with not being able to attend this year's brain injury conference, and I decided that I didn't like that possibility. So I drafted a GoFundMe page, and I asked for a couple of $100 that I thought would be necessary for me to get to Orlando and to get home. And here we are, less than a week later, after asking my community, my friends, and I posted it pretty much on Facebook and once in a while on Threads, the GoFundMe. I have been able to raise the money to attend the Brain Injury Florida conference in 2026. Thanks to so many amazing donors who all seem to have a few things in common. And I did the homework. I'm a Hesley. Well, I shouldn't use my last name, but I did my homework. And I've broken up my donors into categories. So I'm going to use first name. So my donors, first of all, if you're watching and you're a donor, I'd really like to thank you. If you're watching and you're just watching the GoFundMe, thank you. Thank you for your interest and your care and your concern in what your crazy friend Lynn is doing in Tamarack, Florida. Me, your crazy friend Lynn, is super, super grateful for your interest and your attention and the time in your day that you contributed to reading up about my story and needs. I'm really, really grateful. So let's get to the good part, and let's get around to thanking those people who have made their really generous contributions. I, unfortunately, only have access to my Warren Area High School 1998 yearbook because that is the year that I graduated high school. But there are a few other high school graduates that I went to high school with. I'm 45. I graduated high school in 1998, which was like 157 years ago. But us Warren Area High School graduates, we're a special group of kids because so many of them have so generously donated to my request to go to the Brain Injury Florida conference. In 1995 was my 1995 was my first year of high school, and in 1994, as a freshman, there were so many tall, fabulous, grown-up, beautiful, super adult and mature-looking people who are so much older than us, little 14-year-olds. And a couple of those classmates, those 1995 graduates from high school, donated. Jada gave a donation, and Jada and I worked together in our 20s at a cafe in Warren. So Jada, thank you for your donation. Vince was a friend in my first year of marching band because in addition to being a student in the high school, I was also a marching band nut. I loved the Warren Area High School marching band. And Vince was in that marching band, and Vince was my friend at band camp. We would smoke cigarettes together during the breaks in the quiet. And there might have been a bottle of vodka or rum or whiskey or something at one of the band camp rehearsal days. I don't know. And you see, I remember this as a TBI survivor. I remember this, that he and his friend snuck booze into band camp. 1997, an old family friend, Brooke, donated with the help of her mom, Tacey, and her husband, Rick. Tacey is a special connection to our family. Tacey used to clean our house when I was a kid. Tacey was our neighbor. Tacey and Brooke's family, Brooke and Rick's and Tacey's family, they were neighbors. Tacey would come to our house and help my mom keep things straight when she had 3 young kids and a husband to take care of. So to Tacey and the Lyle family, thank you so very much. I'd also really like to acknowledge a lot of the people that I met before my traumatic brain injury, because there's quite a few people I met before my TBI. First of all, I'd really like to acknowledge Donna. I met Donna when I first moved here to Florida. Donna was my first BFF here in Florida, And Donna so generously made a donation. Thank you, Donna. Thank you so much. Also, Scott. He's a fellow Warren area high school graduate, but he graduated before I was in high school. But Scott and his family have been friends of my family for many, many years. So thank you to Scott. And thank you to Sandy. Speaking of BFFs, Donna is like my Florida BFF. Sandy is my Western New York and Central New York BFF. I knew Sandy back when I was a radio DJ 148 years ago. So thank you to Sandy. Ellen directed a couple of plays that I starred in my hometown. She directed Noises Off, which was so much fun. Oh my goodness, that was a fun show to be in. And I believe Ellen also directed Man of La Mancha, which I was also in. But Ellen very generously donated and has given me some really fantastic gifts that I have hung up on my wall because they're really kind gifts. Also, Terry, I've known Terry from when I first moved to Rochester in 2010 or 2011. I've known Terry because when I first moved to Rochester, I was a radio DJ and I was working at a radio station, WBEE, and this is back when I was Jesse Jordan. Jesse Jordan on WBEE. Terry was a morning show co-host, so the morning show is the big money. So Terry was the biggest celebrity in Rochester. And also, I speak of the company that I used to work for before my TBI, and I'm really grateful that Amanda, who was a friend of mine when I lived in Rochester, New York, working for the company that I used to work for, working for Bosch. Amanda still works for Bosch. She was our recruiter for so long at Security Systems, and she's now one of the major North American recruiters for the company. So very special thank you to that group of people. And I'd also like to acknowledge the people that I met after my TBI, because I've lived here since 2018. It is currently 2026, so a few of those years have been after my TBI, and my TBI really gave me an opportunity to get to know my neighbors. So to Tavia and Lena, my neighbors here in the HOA that I live in, I'd really, really like to thank you so much. And finally, we're speaking of Warren area high school graduates in the 90s, because that's when I went to high school, in the 1990s. And there's a group of kids who donated, who are special to me, because they're my high school classmates. When I talk about the people that graduated high school in 1998, these are my high school classmates who have donated generously to my support. First of all, Jackie. Jackie donated, and I'm so grateful because Jackie was always a kind, patient student. She was always a kind and patient friend near our lockers because her last name and my last name are kind of similar. Jackie's always a kind friend. Jackie, thank you so much for your kindness. When I talk about lifetime friends, Susie. She goes by Susan or Sue, but I always knew her as Susie. Susie very generously donated to help me be able to get to the Brain Injury Florida conference this year. And I've known Susie since I was a kid. We lived backyard to backyard. We were really best friends all the way through childhood. Jody. This picture doesn't do Jody's current look justice. Jody is gorgeous, as you can somewhat see from her facial structure and her hairstyle, just the perfection of it all. Jody, very generously donated. And then there's this other Lynn that we'll talk about in a minute. Anna. Anna is another super kind, super patient, and social. So social. She just always had friends. She's always been a very kind and engaging friend. Finally, Eric. Eric donated, and I'm really grateful that Eric donated because Eric and I shared one special common bond. We're both in the band, the marching band. And this is kind of me right here. No, I'm not really doing the great job here. So this is me. And I believe this is Eric. And I snapped this out of the 1998 Warren Area High School yearbook. So, to the people who really generously donated to my Brain Injury Florida request, I'd really like to thank you. And to the Brain Injury Florida team, thank you so much for all the things you do for people who are brain injury survivors in our state. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe. And thank you so much for being here on TBI Talk. And I'll see you next week.